Hi. Being an iOS application developer, you often need to choose between doing your UI through storyboards or by code. Over the last 7 years, I have completely abandoned storyboards and I've been primarily working with UI kit. Um, I often see that so many people have difficulty transitioning from storyboards to a completely programmatic approach when they create their user interface. So I'm just going to give you a very quick tip of a sort to make this transition a bit better. Okay, so here I have created a new sample project. I am going to init my views in my view controller. So for that, I'm just going to make a private function init views. In here, I'm just going to add a label. So I'm going to make a lazy var my label. Initiate the label within disclosure. Make the text hello world, and we're just going to return this label. We're going to make this text color black as well. Now, to add this label to your view controller, to your view controller's view, you generally will have to do the following: view.add subview my label, and then you have to translate auto resizing mask into constraint equal to false for that particular view, and then you will have to go ahead and add the constraints just like how you will add in your storyboard, but here you just have to do it by code. So I'm just going to add a center x and center y anchors, which will be related to the guide center x and center y. So you'll get a label that is right at the center of the screen. You all know this. This is not new, but I'm just going to give you a much better way of doing your UI with code. I'm just going to add one more view here, my custom view. I'm just going to give it a background color of red and add it right on top of this label. I'm going to give a width constant of 100 and a height constant of 200, and I'm just going to align it right at the center X to my label, and I'm going to place this view just a few pixels above the label. Now, if you look at it, you will see that that's a lot of code. You do this dot is active equal to true so many times, and there is just too much code here. It's not pretty. That's not something that I want to see in my application. So first, let's just remove all these redundant is active equal to true. You can just do that by adding all these relations into an array. Now you just need to add one is active. You just have to iterate through this array and make each of them is active equal to true. This is good. This is better, but this is not the best. What I want to do is something a bit different. So I'm going to make a new extension file. Let's just go ahead and add a new file into the project. Let's just call it UIView plus extensions. Now here I'm gonna create an extension of UIView where I will have a function which can add constraints to this particular UIView. But before that, let's just make a enum called constraints. Here, each of the cases will be something similar to top, leading, trailing, bottom. That's all we need for now. Let's just get into making this extension. I'm going to create a function, add constraints. This method is going to have a parameter constraints passed into it, which is going to be a list of constraints. You see, this is a variable function, so you can have any number of constraints to this view or to this method. My bad. Okay, I mistyped. Oh, sorry, I mistyped the constraints. Since this is a variable function, while calling this method, you can add any number of constraints with a comma. It just has to be comma separated. And we are going to for loops through these constraints, and we're going to check what each of these constraints is. So we're going to use a switch statement for this. Okay, now how would you add a top anchor to this view? Let's just say self dot top anchor dot constraint equal to a layout y-axis anchor and a constant. These two things you need to add a constraint. We're going to add these values as an associated value to the enum that we just defined just a bit earlier. Since we have associated values, we will get these values in the case. So let's just call it anchor and constant. Something's wrong. Yeah, okay. We can rewrite this case like this. This is better. So we're going to repeat this for leading, bottom, and trailing. So for all the horizontal constraints, it's going to be NS layout X constraint, and for all the vertical constraints is going to be NS layout Y axis constraint or Y axis anchor. Now let's go back to the V controller and start rewriting our constraints. So we can add some constraints with this my custom view, like top. Okay, we did not add the center X, center Y, width or height anchors yet. So I'm just going to add the top, leading, bottom, and trailing anchors to this my custom view. Let's just run it and see if everything works. I have set the leading, trailing, bottom, and trailing anchors with respect to the guides and with a constant of 10. So the view should look something like this. Now let's just add the width and height cases to our constraint enum and do the required steps to add these constraints to the view in our switch case statement. I'd say width and height are two constraints which need not have a relation to another constraint. It can have a constant itself. So we will handle that in this code. We will add the constraint as an optional and the constant as a non-optional here. And if the constraint is, we're going to check if the constraint is, we're going to check if the constraint is present. If it is present, we are going to relate the width anchor of this view to the constraint that is given. Else, we're just going to directly give the width as a constant. We're going to do the same thing for the height as well. Now let's just add the center X and center Y as well. Same drill, we're going to add the center X and center Y cases for our constraint in our constraint enum as well. Now let's rewrite our code. I'm just going to delete all the code that we added to our view controller, and we are going to add constraint to my label like this. Since it's a variative function, the order of how we give the constraint doesn't matter. You can just say dot center X or dot center Y and just add your constraint as per your requirement. I'm just going to add the exact same constraint that we added in the beginning of this course, in the beginning of this tutorial. This is not a course, it's just a tutorial. And that's about it. You get the same UI with far less code. Yeah, there is code, but it's not something that you repeat. It's not in your view controller. It's not in. Okay, you achieve the same thing with far less code right now. Now, how do you improve on this? You may add the missing constraints, like you may add more cases here, like left, right, or some other constraint that you want to add. Now, this does not support multipliers yet, but you can add a multiplier as another CG float in your tuple, in your associated value. And you can add support to give layout priority. That's something that you can do. But I'm going to leave that up to you. I'm going to leave this code in the description. A link to this code in the description. You can just take it and use as you like. Thank you.